Hi and welcome back to the channel, and in today's episode let's keep going with the Methmobile and the Lancer. Okay, so let's take stock of where we are with these two cars, because since the last video I've done quite a bit of work actually. So we'll start with the Lancer, because we have got quite a bit done on that. A lot of mechanical stuff. I didn't film it because it's not overly exciting. Basically put a brand new pair of drive shafts in there, also had a gearbox mount that was completely shot, so sorted that out as well. Gave it a service, changed the oil and filter on it, went through a few more bits and pieces mechanically. Got to the rear brakes. We're going to change the rear brake pads out because the standard road sort of pads in there are not really good enough for rally. They're cooked, and unfortunately had a wrong set of brake pads, so waiting for a new set of those to arrive for it. So we'll put some proper race pads in there with a decent compound on those, which will help a lot. We're still waiting for the front brakes as well. We had to order those. They've got to come out of Japan, unfortunately, for this particular car, so waiting on that. And got a few other bits and pieces. Obviously we've been progressing with tidying the inside of the car. It's had a couple of coats of paint on the floor now, and it's all come up really good, so it'll be time to start putting that back together very shortly. Okay, the Methmobile, that has gone through quite a transformation. It has had a lot of mechanical work done on it. Found another oil leak in it after I fixed the last one. The oil cooler was leaking as well, so pulled the filter off and pulled the cooler off and sorted that out. Not a common problem with these, so it's a bit unusual, but anyway, we've resealed that and sorted that out, and a few other bits and pieces. Also got a sump guard underneath that, so that's now sorted as well. The rear spoiler is on, different colour, so it kind of matches the bonnet but mismatches the rest of the car. That's in the works to sort that out a bit further down the track. And a few other bits and pieces. The interior, all the tar has been completely stripped off the floor, got that all out and done, which is good, and resealed all the bungs and everything in the floor there. Got the front seats back in and generally tidied it all up. So with the extinguishers now in that, this thing is almost ready to go for Carnacross and rally sprints. We are waiting. We've got a half cage that's due to arrive for that sometime shortly, hopefully well in the next week or so, and we'll be able to bolt that in before we take it out and race. And also we've ordered some new harnesses for it. Now, I did say earlier that the car is going to be rallied. It's the long-term plan. Obviously, the half cage won't be able to be used for rally. However, we should be able to move that on and sell that off. However, the harnesses, well, we've ordered the right ones that we can use for rally. So effectively, you get 5 years of dates for FIA tagging on the harnesses, and then Motorsport Australia, the old cams, allows another 5 years on top of that. So effectively, if you buy the right harnesses straight up, you can use them for the next 10 years or so. Okay, so if you've never seen one of these before, we're going to show you what they are and how they work. They're called nut certs, or riv nuts. Basically, you use a tool like this. There's a few different types of tool. This one's actually very, very effective. I think we've used these before on our videos. Basically, these work like a threaded rivet, and using this special gun, you put these into the panel work, squeeze the tongs, and then that makes a nice little neat thread in panels. Now, these are only designed to go through fairly thin sheet metal. They're not designed for very thick applications. Anything that you need that's really thick, probably going to have to end up welding into it or drilling and tapping it. But these will work perfectly to hold the P-clips for the brake lines back in place. So let's put one in and see what it looks like. So all you got to do is just put that thing in the floor. Yep, that's it. And then just squeeze the tongs very gently, squeeze them together, and you'll get to a point where they'll stop. Okay, that's it. Now open the tongs again, and then just unscrew that. So turn the thread, yep, the tap there to the left. And that's it, done. Just pull that brake line to one side. Just pull the brake line towards me, that's it, and that's it. Okay, and then we'll just put an M6 bolt in there, and that's that done, and then we'll fix that down nicely. Okay, is that tight?
It's tight.
Yep, beautiful. And that's it, that's how they work. Easy. that's the way to do it, mate. You just get in there and paint it. So he's getting it everywhere with spray paint. And whilst Damien was busy displaying his Van Gogh skills, I got busy and sorted out the LED light bar for the Methmobile. So while we've been doing all this other work, we had to get on and cut these stubs down and then weld in some new blanking plates and nuts into the front here. These were actually spotlight brackets or tubes behind the bumper. You've seen them in a couple of other shots that we have had. Unfortunately, the rules say you're not allowed to have anything protruding out of the front of the car that could pose a hazard to pedestrians or whatnot, unless you've got to have, like, say, spotlights permanently mounted on there. And because the spotlights weren't permanently mounted, we've changed it over. We're going to change the bracket and make it into a quick release. And now they're flush with the bumper, so they comply with the regulations. So now we've got the seats and harnesses all back in, and the interior is pretty much all reassembled. We're very happy with the way those braided lines came together. They weren't the best when we got the car, so we've got that all sorted out now, and that looks 100% better than it did. Okay, so let's get these bad boys installed in the car. Now, initially, I did say that we were going to put a half cage into this car, and that still is the plan. However, we received news from the manufacturer today that they're not going to have the half cage ready in time. So we've had to go with plan B, which is to mount the harnesses in the car without a cage. It's a question that I get asked regularly. Can you fit race harnesses into a car without a cage? And the short answer is yes. However, there is a caveat with that. It depends on the car, because some cars are not as easy as others. In the Subarus, it's actually not too bad a job, and we'll be able to keep basically 4 of the 6 mounting points for these when we actually go to half cage and even a full roll cage. So basically, we've used the factory seatbelt mounts. You can just see the eyelet down there by the side of the seat. The factory threads there is fine. Under the seat for the crutch straps, we have had to put mounts under here. You can probably just see the eyelets there, and we've done videos on how to mount these before. It's pretty straightforward, but we've got those in there, so the harnesses are mounted. Now, at the back of the car, as I've just shown you on the last shot, what we've done is mounted these to the rear seatbelt positions. Now, these are the best place to mount them because it's a factory reinforced position for seatbelts. The trick with the Subarus is to make sure that you get the mounting points down under the seat for the crutch straps in the correct position. So these aren't too bad. Some cars are a bit more difficult. Also, the Subaru factory has a opening, a hole there, which means the harnesses can go through there. A lot of other cars don't have that, and it means you have to think a little bit creatively about how you hold those harnesses into position. Some cars, it is very difficult. So if you are going to fit race seats to your competition car, whether it be for Carnacross or Autocross or whatever, just make sure that you consult with somebody first, perhaps your local scrutineers or us if you're racing at any of our events, and we can just advise on what's required to fit these up. All right, apart from clicking the harnesses in on the driver's side, that's this all done. So in the background, whilst we've been doing the Lancer and the Methmobile, we've also been busy doing another car as well. And I did mention it in episode 1. I said that we were sort of doing 3 cars. Technically, we're sort of doing 4. And this third car is actually sort of a satellite build in that it's a GC8. It's one of the members of our team. However, we're not building in our workshop, but we have provided a lot of assistance with it. It ended up being, as a start, a car that was purchased as a semi-finished project, and the guy that owned it thought, well, it doesn't have much left to be done. However, that was a long way from reality. As it turns out, it needed a huge amount of work, to the point where we basically had to strip it down to a bare shell and kind of start again. There were a lot of things that weren't done quite right, or weren't finished, or were missing parts, or bolts were loose, or other bits and pieces. And on top of that, the roll cage, it did have a welded in cage in it. However, it is no longer compliant, and the cage hadn't been certified, so we had to go and get gussets and plates and extra bars welded into that to get it done. done, so that required the shell back to basically stripped bare, and then we put the car together. It's been a long process, probably 3 to 4 months in the background getting it all done. We had to source a lot of bits and pieces for it. The engine in the car had not run at all for, well, probably at least 10 or 15 years. It was a Japanese import engine, STI, and we really didn't know the condition of that engine, so it was really good. We put some aftermarket engine management in there, and the injectors were block solid, so got those cleaned up and sorted out, and then managed to get the engine fired up. And as I speak at the moment, it's actually on the dyno getting a tune. So that has been a long project in the background. It has been a huge amount of work in that. Everything, including the fuel tank, has been out of that car and put back together. We're also waiting on the suspension at the moment. It had some second-hand gravel rally suspension in it, and it was in, yeah, well, a pretty bad state. In fact, a very bad state, and needed a full rebuild. So we've just about got that all ironed out now, and that will go in the car, and hopefully it's going to make its competition debut alongside the Lancer and the Methmobile. Now, there's still a little bit of a way to go with the Lancer. There's a few bits and pieces to be done. However, there's probably enough now to be able to take it to the first event, and then we'll get on to the rest of it in time for the first state championship rally in early April. So with 3, well, actually 4, 5, because another one came in the workshop yesterday they want to be able to use in the rally sprint that's coming up. We've really got our work cut out for us. So I hope you've enjoyed this update of these builds of these, well, 2, 3 cars, and maybe we'll get a build video together of what we're doing with the other car that came in yesterday. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll catch you again soon. Cheers.